This is my official SF-B1805 review, and in this video we're going to go through the 10 separate categories of the TailHappy score, and then I'm going to give this Sunny bike a TailHappy score. Then at the end of this video we're going to see how the SF-B1805 stacks up and compares to other indoor cycling bikes I've reviewed with the TailHappy score. Before we dive into the TailHappy score, let me tell you some basic facts about this bike. This Sunny bike is going to cost you about 6 of these. And of course I do have a link below this video in the description box so you can check out the current price and see if there's any specials going on or what the current ship times are. It is a belt-driven magnetic resistance bike, and it does have magnets on both sides of the flywheel, which I think really contributes to a high max resistance on this bike. Max resistance. The 1805 has a 44-pound flywheel, it's smooth, it's silent, and overall I think it's a great bike. There's no electronics whatsoever, the frame is very robust and supports a weight of 300 pounds. It is a 4-way adjustable bike, and for the money I do believe the 1805 is one of the best open platform bikes you can buy for the money. Overall, I actually think the Sunny 1805 is better than the TailHappy score is going to reflect, and that is because of 2 categories that holds this bike back. And the 2 categories I'm talking about are metrics and features, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. I do think that if you spend a few extra dollars on accessories to beef up the metrics and the features categories of this bike, it really improved the TailHappy score overall, and I do believe that the 1805 is a great bike. The first category in the TailHappy score is drivetrain feel, and simply put, that is how does the bike feel to ride? As I mentioned before, the Sunny 1805 has dual magnet stacks surrounding this 44-pound flywheel, and overall, this is a great feeling bike to ride. The Sunny 1805 is very quiet and very smooth. The 44-pound flywheel on the Sunny 1805 is actually pretty close in weight to what is on the Peloton Bike Plus. In general, when riding the Sunny 1805, I'd say it feels pretty similar to the Peloton Bike Plus in terms of feel. And that's why I give the Sunny 1805 an 8 out of 10 on drivetrain feel. The next category is max resistance, and simply put, what is the maximum resistance of the Sunny 1805? There are a lot of bikes out there that lack on maximum resistance, but the dual magnet stack on each side of the flywheel on the Sunny 1805 is one thing that I think makes this bike have such a good maximum resistance. If you compare it to the Peloton Bike Plus, for example, the Peloton also has dual magnet stacks built in the same way. If you crank the maximum resistance of the Sunny 1805 up to max, I do believe it equals about 85 or so on the Peloton Bike Plus. And for most people, in terms of an aerobic workout, 85 on the Peloton bike is definitely sufficient. I give the Sunny 1805 an 8 out of 10 on max resistance because the maximum resistance on this bike is actually really good and very close to the Peloton Bike Plus. The next category in the TailHappy score is metrics, and that is simply what kind of metrics can you get on the bike. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the Sunny 1805 does not come with any sort of electronics attached to this bike. So what that means is out of the box up here on the dashboard area, you do not get metrics such as your cadence or what your resistance is, and also you do not get your heart rate either. Additionally, you do not get your power output on this bike. In comparison to the Peloton Bike Plus, for example, you do get your cadence, power, and resistance. So unfortunately, I have to give the Sunny 1805 a 1 out of 10 for metrics. But the good news is you can install something like a Wahoo cadence sensor that I have here on the crank arm of the Sunny 1805, and then all you need to do is download the Wahoo app and you can get your cadence right here on the app as well as your heart rate. All you need to do is get your own heart rate monitor, like I have the Scosche Rhythm Plus right here. And here's what the Wahoo cadence sensor box looks like. I'll put links to both of those below the video in the description box. The next category is features. What kind of features does the bike have? Does it have automatic adjusting resistance? Well, no, not on this bike. Is there a leaderboard? Well, no, there's not even a tablet that comes on this bike. And also because of that, there is no recurring monthly fees associated with the Sunny 1805. Also, the 1805 does not come with clip-in pedals. You get a standard cage and just a normal pedal on the other side. However, in theory, it does appear possible to add a clip to this pedal. But the good news is the crank arm does have standard threading, so if you did want to add SPD clip-in pedals, you can do so. For example, these are the pedals that I run on the Peloton Bike Plus. So due to the lack of features on the Sunny 1805, I do have to give this bike a 1 out of 10 on the features compared to other bikes. And it really hurts me to give this bike a 1 in the features and the metrics category because I know at its core, this bike is great. But looking at the bike just by itself, when you compare it to other bikes that I've reviewed, it really just doesn't come with any features or metrics on the bike out of the box. But I told you what you can do about it. Moving on to the next category of the TailHappy score is adjustability. This bike is 4-way adjustable, meaning these handlebars can move forwards and backwards. And there's also 15 plus another max level for raising and lowering the handlebars. On top of that, there are no holes you need to click into in terms of those adjustments, so you do get micro adjustments on both accounts. Popping on back over here to the saddle, you can see you get 24 plus an extra max in terms of raising and lowering the saddle. And you can also move the saddle forwards and backwards with micro adjustments. I'm 6'5" and I find this bike to be comfortable with the adjustments. As you can see, the handlebars come up quite high in comparison to where the saddle comes up to. So with 4-way adjustability, I do give the Sunny 1805 a 9 out of 10 for adjustability. The Peloton Bike Plus doesn't even have the ability to move the handlebars forwards and backwards. The next category of the TailHappy score is comfort, and this takes into account the points of contact you have with the bike. The first point of contact you have with the bike is the handlebars, and the grip material is nice. It's a nice rubberized coat, and you do get these really long stretched out handlebars, so you get a lot of different variety in where you can put your hands. You have position 1 here, position 2, and a really long position 3 here for out of the saddle. The handlebars have a nice thickness to them, and the rubber material feels really nice to the hands. The next main point of contact you have with the bike is the saddle, and it's a pretty wide saddle. It has a little bit of cushion to it. It's not too squishy. I do think that most beginners would be very happy with this saddle. The next point of contact you have with the bike are the pedals, and these pedals are perfectly comfortable to ride. There's no sharp teeth sticking out, they're not too small, and they're not too big. Good quality material, they work just fine. The resistance knob is a plastic material, and it feels perfectly fine to touch and rotate and adjust your resistance. And these are what the levers look like to adjust the 4 adjustment points. Another thing I like to take into consideration for comfort is how high do the handlebars come in relation to the saddle height. And on the Sunny 1805, I do feel like the handlebars do come up sufficiently high to be comfortable while riding this bike. So in terms of comfort on the 1805, I give it a 9 out of 10. The next category in the TailHappy score is style, and that's basically, what does the bike look like? It's gonna be in your home after all, so you probably want to choose a bike that you actually like to look at, right? I like the standard flat black that the Sunny 1805 uses. The red accents are pretty similar to most other bikes, and I do think it's a good looking bike. And I do think the metal accents do give it a nice touch. And I do think the exposed flywheel on the Sunny 1805 does look pretty good. While the dual magnet stack up on the front of the bike is very effective, I have to admit, it's not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Overall, I give the Sunny 1805 a 7 out of 10 for style. The next category is convenience, and that is basically how easy is it to just jump on the bike and start riding it. And also it takes into account how easy is it to join an instructor-led class and get your metrics and all of that. So since the Sunny 1805 does not come with a tablet or any metrics whatsoever, you do need to hook up your own device if you want to get your metrics such as cadence and heart rate. And if you did want to do the Peloton digital app or Apple Fitness Plus, you do need to kind of add your own tablet or, set it up in front of a TV. So there is a little bit of a process here if you want to join an instructor-led class and also get your metrics. It's not quite as convenient as just hopping on the Peloton Bike Plus and having all of your metrics right up here on the screen. So you are going to need to remember to keep your tablet charged and keep your devices charged and hook all that stuff up. Overall, I give the Sunny 1805 a 4 out of 10 for convenience. But of course, it is just super easy to hop on this bike and just start riding it if you don't care about doing instructor-led classes or hooking up any metrics. The next category is initial quality impressions, and this is basically just how do I feel about the quality of the bike. The frame of the Sunny 1805 is actually very robust and it has a nice metal material, and it feels like it would last a long time to me. Looking at the mechanics of the resistance, it looks pretty robust and like it would last. The brake pad is leather, and the 44-pound flywheel feels very robust and quality. And looking at the mobility wheels, they are a high quality wheel, very similar to what you would see on a rollerblade. In general, out of the several Sunny bikes I have reviewed, I do feel like these Sunny bikes are a high quality bike in general. And the Sunny 1805, I do give a 9 out of 10 for initial quality impressions. If you do have a long-term quality report on this bike, please leave it down below in the comments section to share with other people. The final category is value, and that's basically what do you get for the money. So the Sunny 1805 will cost you about $600, and the drivetrain feel and the maximum resistance on this bike are great. It's one of my favorite bikes to ride. And since it does not come with any sort of electronics or anything, there are no recurring fees. You just pay that money up front, and then the bike's yours. Taking all the previous categories into consideration, and then considering it only costs $600 to buy the Sunny 1805, I give the 1805 a 7 out of 10 for value. So adding up all of the separate categories of the TailHappy score, the Sunny 1805 earns a 63 out of 100 on the TailHappy score. And while 63 out of 100 doesn't seem like a super high score, I really do feel like the Sunny 1805 is one of the best indoor cycling bikes I've reviewed. To give you a reference to how the Sunny 1805 compares to other bikes I've reviewed with the TailHappy score on my channel, you can see here up on this chart. And even though the TailHappy score is 63 overall for the Sunny 1805, if you compare the individual categories to other bikes, you'll see that the Sunny 1805 is actually a really good bike. It just lacks in the metrics and the features category. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you just had a few extra dollars to spend on things like a Wahoo cadence sensor to put on the crank arm and get your cadence back, that really boosts up the metrics category. And also if you added some SPD clip-in pedals to this bike, I really think that add to the features category. But I think really the thing to focus on with the 1805 is this bike is mechanically sound and it has good bones to it. So if you're looking for a bike that is like open platform and doesn't have like a bunch of electronics on it, the Sunny 1805 is actually a really good bike for that. Then what you can do is add your own accessories like the cadence sensor and add a tablet holder and run whatever platform you would like. It has a 44-pound flywheel that carries a lot of momentum through and evens out your cadence, and it feels really good in and out of the saddle, and it has a really good maximum resistance with those two magnet stacks on each side of the flywheel, giving the bike resistance. The resistance feels very smooth and very linear and is very quiet. Anyway, this is my bottom line on the 1805. I do have a link below this video in the description box if you want to check out the current price, and if you do buy through that link, it would help support this channel and I would greatly appreciate it. But as always, I'm not trying to convince you to buy the 1805. You can check out my other TailHappy score reviews. I'll put links to those up here and down in the description box to see how this bike compares to other bikes. There are a lot of great bikes out there, and I do believe the Sunny 1805 is mechanically one of the better ones out there. Also be sure to check out my Schwinn IC4 review if you have not seen that, and probably my Echelon EX15 review as well. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about the 1805? Any questions or comments you have, please leave down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to be notified for my new videos when they come out. Thanks for watching guys. I'll see you in my next video.